Sup you beautiful people. Hope you've had a fantastic day. Welcome back to another new episode of What If Naruto Was Hela's Vanguard. After being sealed alongside Hela by Odin, he's now free. How will the Marvel world react to this new player in the game? If you guys enjoy this what if, comment down below and let me know. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel after watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So now let's start this video. Thanos. Huh. The blonde says to himself as he watches the spacecraft hover above them. The citizens of Asgard had already ran into the city in a panic. The group watched as a blue beam shot out of the ship, hitting the ground a few yards away from them. In a split second, two figures appeared. The first was an ash-gray figure, short in stature, who had white hair slicked back. The man had no nose and wore dark gray armor with some gold trim. The second was a tad bit taller than the first. He's a reptilian-looking man with scales. He wore similar armor to the first, though he left his left shoulder exposed and wielded a large metal chain hammer. So which one of these two is Thanos? Naruto asked Loki, taking his eyes off the two. Neither. The god of mischief replied. These two are his children. He clarified. Really? Hela interrupted. Truly faces only a mother could love. She mocked. Naruto chuckled and was about to speak when he was cut off by the shorter of the two invaders. Hear me and rejoice, began the short one. For your salvation has arrived. You will have the privilege of being saved by the great Titan. And in your certain death, every last one of you will become children of Thanos. He continued. Today. Whatever he was going to say was stopped as Thor interrupted. Loki. Who the hell are these two? He asked. The son of Odin. My name is Ebony Maw, and this is called Obsidian. The now named Maw introduced. We are the children of Thanos, and we are here for one thing and one thing only. He said before pointing at Naruto's staff. The stone. Naruto lifted the staff up to his face and stared at the two through the C-shape. You mean this one right here? He asked rhetorically while pointing at it. Yeah, that's gonna be a no. He says while resting it on his shoulder. You have been going on for a bit about this Thanos though. He's the one that wants it, right? Tell him to come down here himself if he wants it. Naruto challenged, the smile never leaving his face. Maw on the other hand did not look as happy. He narrowed his eyes and held his arms behind his back. Without turning to his partner, he gave the order. Bring me the stone. Kal made a grunt of acknowledgement and slammed his hammer down before walking their way. Everyone but Naruto and Hela prepared for battle, but were stopped as Naruto raised a hand. Kal sped up and jumped high into the air, preparing to bring the hammer down. Move. Naruto ordered as they all jumped back. Not needing to use hand signs, the blonde inhaled a deep breath of air before expelling it in short rapid bursts. The result was wind bullets traveling faster than the eye could see. Kal managed to shield himself from 3 using the hammer, but was eventually hit by 6 of them in the chest. Naruto did not give him time to recuperate. He appeared in front of him and began wooling the air around them. He began making slicing motions with his hands in front of Kal. The man's chest armor broke effortlessly, as an X began appearing on his chest where the wind was cutting into him. Seconds later, the wind had managed to completely cut through the man, leaving only pieces of the scaled man remaining. Now only one thing remains, Naruto said. Ma narrowed his eyes and raised his arms. Debris laying around began to levitate as the man prepared his attack. Naruto stared up at the ship before closing his eyes and activating his magnet release around the entire area. He raised his arm towards the ship, made a fist and began pulling. To everyone's amazement, the giant ship began coming down before hitting the ground with a force that could be felt for miles. When the shaking stopped and the smoke from the impact cleared, another blue beam hit the ground. This time a more imposing figure stepped out. The giant purple man stood tall. He wore golden armor with a matching golden helmet. On his left hand was a matching gold gauntlet. Though what caught everyone's attention was the bright purple stone shining from just above the knuckle. That's Thanos, Loki said in slight fear. Being around the Mad Titan always put him on edge. So you're the Mad Titan? Naruto asked, stepping forward, staff still resting on his shoulder. He noticed the giant man's eyes focus on the stone the whole time before focusing on him. That's the name that stuck with me in the past years, so yes. You're an interesting one though. To be able to wield an infinity stone is not something just anyone can do. Who are you? Thanos asked. Naruto Uzumaki. The blonde answered. I'll try and remember that. Now you have something that belongs to me. Thanos said, looking at the stone once again. Is that so? Funny. I was about to tell you the same thing. Naruto answered while pointing his staff at the gauntlet. I see. Ma, take care of the others. I'll get the stone myself. Ma nodded and began his attack, while Thanos stared down the blonde. Naruto knew Thanos was on a different level than the other two. The way the man carried himself was proof of that. Most would be sweating in apprehension knowing that a Titan was heading their way, but not him. After years of being sealed away and his power being unmatched in the world, he felt a shiver of excitement run up and down his spine. An opponent who would put up a hell of a fight. He was by no means a battle maniac, but even he couldn't resist a good battle every now and then. He gripped the staff hard, and the space stone began glowing, as if ready for the fight as well. The ground underneath Naruto broke as he charged at Thanos. The Mad Titan's eyes widening at the speed. Naruto went for a punch that Thanos tried to anticipate, but it was a fake out, as Naruto twisted his body in to give a heel kick, but Thanos was just as quick. Grabbing Naruto by his heel, he started to spin, going so fast that all the others would be able to see was a golden purple blur. Releasing Naruto, Thanos gave chase, striking Naruto while he was still flying until finally grabbing the man by the face and slamming the back of his head in the ground. Usually that would have taken a normal person out, but not our favorite blonde. He did not even have time to reach for the staff, as Naruto got back up rolling his neck with a cheeky smile. Not bad, old timer. You ready to get serious now? Thanos gave a chuckle, taking off his armor bar his gauntlet. You have a lot of spunk, warrior, I admire that. Something I used to have when I was younger. Naruto was once again on Thanos, rearing his tight fist back as the Mad Titan did the same. A massive shockwave followed, sending Asgardians flying. Thor could only look in awe at the powerful display in front of him. Loki watched in unease, hoping things would go his favor. If his brother-in-law couldn't beat the Titan, no one would. Hela watched in pride. Pride that her husband could go toe-to-toe with one of the most powerful beings in the universe and hold his own. Standing in the middle of the busted street was the two. Naruto's fists meeting Thanos as the two battled for dominance. Then with a roar and a blinding light, Naruto was in his most powerful form. His armor glowing white as his six paths power was activated for the first time in what felt like forever. With his now enhanced strength, he sent Thanos skipping along the street from the power of his punch. That alone though would not be enough to stop Thanos. The man regained his footing and got on the defensive. Naruto appeared in front of him and began throwing combinations of punches and kicks which were deflected. Likewise, Thanos tried using his bigger form to try and cause as much damage as he could. One of his punches was actually caught by the blonde before being tossed aside. Using that brief window, did a jumping spin kick to the face that landed and managed to have the Titan stumbling back briefly. He didn't have much time to recuperate thought as the blonde was on him. Naruto buried the staff into the ground at the handle, and quickly launched 4 chakra-enhanced punches to the chest and ribs in the blink of an eye. If the grimace on the Titan's face was any indication, he would say they were doing their job, inflicting damage even through the armor. Calling his staff to him using his magnet release, in a split second, he thrusted forward using the curved end to grasp the man's throat and lift him into the air. On his left hand a mini Rasen shuriken formed, which was then flicked into the man's chest, sending him flying away before detonating, creating a massive dome of energy. The dome glowed purple for a few seconds before dispersing. Thanos walked out of the attack, body releasing some smoke, and multiple cuts here and there, along with a few bruises on his face, but relatively okay. An interesting attack. He admitted, it's been a while since someone was able to harm me this much. He added. The Mad Titan raised his gauntlet up and let the stone glow ominously. It seems I'll have to take this more serious than I anticipated. However, I'll give you one last chance to hand over the stone before I'm forced to take it from you. You know you never did say what you wanted the stones for. Enlighten me. Naruto said, his space stone matching the glow of the power stone. Well, seeing as how you won't be alive much longer, I'll humor you. The universe is overpopulated. Too many mouths, not enough to go around. He began. Naruto nodded his head in agreement that there was too many people with not enough resources. With the infinity stones I can snap my fingers and half the universe will cease to exist. Some would call it genocide, but I call it mercy. Saving them from imminent starvation. He finished. Right? What about after they're gone? People could just start reproducing again, and this problem would repeat itself. See, I have a better idea. With the infinity stones I can create unlimited resources. Enough to go around for everyone. I'd end world hunger, war over resources and much more. Which is why I'm going to have to take the stone from you. Naruto said as he spun the staff quickly before slamming it into the ground. If you do that, all living creatures would depend on one being. They'd stop striving for greater heights. I'd love to continue a philosophical conversation, but I have a universe to balance. I'll be taking the stone. Thanos said as a beam of purple light erupted from the gauntlet. Narrowing his eyes, Naruto spun the staff rapidly in front of him, similar to how he did to Thor, and managed to hold off the attack. Unlike Thor's attack, however, this had a lot more power behind it, as he had to quickly step aside as the attack became too much. Had he held on longer, the staff would have broken. He ducked quickly to avoid a power stone enhanced punch before smacking away another fist, returning one of his own. It made contact but didn't stop the Titan. He had to hand it to him. Even in his rusty six paths form, the man could still hold his own. He threw a straight right which was caught by Thanos, before being hit with an infinity stone enhanced left head which sent him flying. The Mad Titan wasn't finished as he rushed forward and once more let off a purple beam of energy from the gauntlet. This time, the beam hit his target. Naruto grit his teeth as his body was no longer in peak condition to handle the six paths form at the moment, and the concentrated energy from the infinity stone was doing more damage than it should have. He barely managed to leap to the right to avoid an energy blast, but was caught by a kick to the chest by the giant. His back hit the solid gold wall of a building which managed to stop him from being sent further. Damn, he's powerful enough on his own. That stone just amplifies his power even more. Gonna have to end this, he thought as he brought his right hand up. On his fingertips 5 different colored spheres materialize, each being a different element combined with a mini Rasen shuriken. He slammed the staff into the ground before tossing the spheres into the portal that had opened. Getting his bearings together, he flew forward and met with the Titan once more. He landed and blocked 2 punches before kicking the man in the chest, sending the man stumbling back slightly. Taking a deep breath, he exhaled it all in one breath, releasing a single line of pressurized air. Thanos saw it coming and managed to duck. Had he turned around, he would have seen pieces of some of the buildings of Asgard being sliced like butter. As he looked up, he noticed the blonde was missing. He realized too late to look behind him as he felt a sharp pain on his spine. The blonde had hit him with the bottom end of the staff right in the center of his back. Even with the special armor, the staff managed to break through and make contact. Naruto saw the Titan drop to a knee as a result of the chakra-enhanced stab to the back, and saw it as his best opportunity to end it. He teleported in front of Thanos and delivered a strong enough uppercut to the chin that managed to lift the man into the air. He slammed his staff into the floor and opened a portal above the man. Out of it came the 5 orbs he had previously created. At point-blank range, Thanos didn't have the time to protect himself and could only brace himself for the impact. Not wanting to be caught in the attack, the blonde allowed himself to be pulled backwards into the blue portal and got out of the area. Naruto reappeared a couple thousand feet away where the others were battling Ma. Everyone turned when they felt the ground shake, followed by a big explosion. "So I take it Thanos has been handled, darling?" Hela asked. She noted he had some bruising in the face, along with some bits of his armor broken. He spit up a bit of blood. "Should be. He's really durable. Took some of my powerful attacks head on and still fought like nothing happened. We'll find out in a few," he asked before looking at a panting Ma who was floating atop of a piece of debris. "You guys having trouble with him?" he asked as he began to float. "It's his telekinesis that's the problem," Thor answered. "He has great control over it. Once we get too close, he simply levitates and uses the surrounding area against us," Loki answered. He was going to add more when they had to move out of the way of a purple beam. Ma widened his eyes at what he saw and quickly rushed to his master's side. Thanos stood in front of them once more, though not as he had before. The man no longer had most of his upper body armor. Only a small bit remaining on his left shoulder. His helmet all but gone. He was sporting multiple burns along his body, and the front of his forearms were cut up so badly you could no longer see his purple skin on them. "Master, are you alright?" Ma asked as he levitated objects around them to act as protection. Taking a few deep breaths, the man replied, "I live." It seems I greatly underestimated not only his strength, but the control he has over the space stone. We're going to have to return for it some other time. This gravely shocked Ma as he'd never seen his master retreat, but he was not one to question orders. Thanos flexed the gauntlet and let off a powerful scream before slamming a fist to the floor. The ground shook and exploded, the shockwave destroying everything in its path courtesy of the Power Stone. Naruto and the group had no choice but to move as to not be hit. In that time, Ma and Thanos were beamed back into their ship and quickly began ascending back into the sky. "Should we try and stop them?" asked the Valkyrie as they were running. "No," answered Naruto. "I've reached my limit for now. I've been sealed for too long that my body won't handle my full power at the moment. I can still access my most powerful form, but it doesn't do the same damage it used to. We'll have to let them go for now. He'll be back." Finally, they turned back and saw that they were in the clear. A large part of Asgard had been turned to rubble, but nothing that couldn't be rebuilt. "This is bad," Loki began. "He'll see you as a major threat now. I'm certain he's going to collect the other stones before saving you for last. Once the other 4 are in his possession, he'll be almost impossible to deal with. Even if you have a stone, then we'll have to stop him from getting the others. Or at least beat him to some of them," Hela responded. "Do any of you know anyone who might have some information?" she asked her brothers. They said nothing for a moment before the god of mischief smiled. "Actually, yes." Everyone turned to him. "As a matter of fact, my brother happens to know of a few people who might be able to help us out." Thor's eyes lit up as he knew who his brother was talking about. "Yes, Loki is right," he said before turning to one person who seemed really out of place. "Banner. Looks like we're going to be meeting with the Avengers," he said happily. "Who are the Avengers?" Naruto asked in confusion, having never heard of the group. Hela shrugged her shoulders, equally confused. "They're Earth's mightiest heroes," Thor replied. "They'll be of great help, I promise you." "Alright. So where is this Earth?" Naruto asked, ready to go. "It's Midgard," Hela answered. "Oh? We'll have to use the Bifrost then, as I don't know exactly where we're going, so I can't use the stone," he said. "Very well, I don't believe we damaged it during the battle, so we should be all set. Let's be off," Thor said as they began walking. As they walked, Naruto couldn't help but wonder what kind of beings were in Midgard. If Hela's brothers knew them, then they must be powerful. He shook his head at those thoughts. He wrapped his arm around the goddess of death and continued their walk. All he knew was that he had infinity stones to collect as his greatest battle was rapidly approaching. The group had finally made it down the bridge that led to the Bifrost. Scourge had made good on his word to get the sword that activated the Bifrost earlier. Right before the sword was inserted, Loki stepped forward. "Wait," he ordered. Everyone's attention turned to him, wondering why he stopped them. "I just remembered something important," he said with a sly smile. "I know where we can get another stone. It's with a man called the Collector," he reveals. "Which stone?" the blonde asked. "The Reality Stone. It has the ability to control and warp reality to a frightening degree," the trickster explained. "That could be useful. Last thing we need is to let Big Purple get his hands on that," Naruto said. "I'd rather not think of how powerful Thanos could become with it in his possession. Problem is the Bifrost doesn't connect to where he is. We can't get to the Collector without a ship," Thor tells them, frowning slightly. Loki, Naruto says, getting the man's attention. "Where is this Collector located?" "He's currently on Knowhere. He's keeping it in his museum. I'm positive if we show up and demand the stone, he'll hand it over. If not, we'll tell him Thanos is coming and he'll take it anyways. I'm sure he'll see it our way," he answered. "Knowhere is still around, huh?" Naruto said, mostly to himself as he'd been there before he was sealed away. "Luckily I know where that is," he added before turning to Valkyrie and Bruce. "Will you two be joining us?" Valkyrie didn't give a verbal response, but nodded positive. Well, they may be on the same side. Being in such close proximity to the couple made her all sorts of nervous. One didn't forget the kind of power the carefree man had. "And you?" he asked the man. Banner stayed quiet for a minute, thinking it over. He took a quick look at Thor before making up his mind. "I think it'd be better to send me back to Earth." Thor nodded at this and followed up. "I agree. You can fill our friends back on Earth in on what's going on. Warn them of the upcoming battle." He motioned Bruce to walk forward. Bruce stood tall and waited for the bridge to connect. Once ready, a great bright light erupted and propelled him forward before shutting off. "Alright. Banner has been sent back to New York. He'll fill the Avengers in on what's going on. The more allies we have, the better," the God of Thunder says. Naruto nods. "Alright, let's go see the Collector." He slams his staff down, opening a blue portal in front of the group. As they're walking through, Naruto turns to his wife. "Don't you want to stay and run Asgard? This shouldn't take too long. They can make do without me. Once we come back, I'll begin renovations on this place," she answered before stepping forward. Shrugging, the rest followed suit, the portal closing behind them. The group reappeared out of the portal on the severed head of a celestial being, now known as Knowhere. Naruto and Hela looked around, taking in the sight. This place had sure changed since the last time they'd seen it. The couple didn't have time for sightseeing though, as Loki began walking forward, knowing exactly where they needed to go. "We got lucky you teleported us here. We're not that far away," Loki informed them as they walked. The group walked for half an hour before finally reaching their destination. A giant glass dome building located almost in the center of Knowhere. "It's here," the blonde alerted the group. He didn't know exactly how he knew, but he got the same feeling now as he did when he noticed the blue cube after being freed. Naruto found it somewhat strange that there seemed to be no security, but hey, he wasn't complaining. The group entered the building, and the blonde couldn't help but be amazed at some of the things he saw. This collector sure had some cool display pieces. As they headed deeper into the building, they finally began hearing noises other than their own footsteps. Walking a bit further and they heard a voice. Well, what a surprise. The group looked to their right to see a man walking their way. The man had on some interesting clothing, as he wore a red shirt with a white fur coat above it. He had matching white hair as well as a black line running down the center of his mouth. "The three children of Odin," he says, noticing Hela with them. The two brothers were surprised that the collector knew of their sister when they themselves didn't until recently. "A Valkyrie," he said, noticing the woman before finally turning his attention to the blonde. "As well as Hela's husband Naruto Uzumaki," the collector finished. Naruto smiled. "You know my name?" he asked rhetorically. "I'm honored," he added. Finally someone knew of him. "No? The honor is mine," the collector returned. "It's not every day you get to meet someone as powerful as yourself." Naruto was now beaming in pride and was about to respond but was cut off. "Alright, that's enough. I don't need him getting a bigger head," she said. She knew this would get to the man's head if it continued. They needed to get back on track. "You have something we need," she finished. At this, Naruto moved his hand down the staff enough to display the glowing blue gem. Seeing the collector's eyes on the stone, Thor spoke. "The Mad Titan Thanos is on a quest to obtain the Infinity Stones. We can't allow that to happen." The collector nodded slowly before rubbing his chin. "The Mad Titan, you say?" "Yes, I've heard whispers that the man has been visiting planets, wiping out half the population. It's been going on for a while now. I figured he was looking for something. Now it all makes sense," he said softly. Seeing that the man knew what was going on, Thor continued. "We need the Ether. Thanos is coming and we can't let him have the stone." The collector exhaled softly before looking at them. "I'm sorry, but I can't just give one of the most powerful objects in the universe away. Not for free, at least," he finished. "Looks like we'll need another way to convince him then," Loki said, smiling mischievously. "How about this then?" Naruto began. "You can give us the Ether and keep your life. Or you can try and take your chances with Thanos when he comes looking for you, in which case you'll most likely die a painful death. Either way you're gonna hand it over. So what will it be? As he finished his ultimatum, the group surrounded the man waiting for an answer. The collector looked around at all of them, seemingly unfazed. However, if one were to look into his mind, they'd see how nervous he actually was. He couldn't think of anyone who could take this group on at once and win. Very well. He conceded. The man walked back to a desk and pressed some buttons before a secret compartment opened from said desk. Reaching down, he pulled out a black and red box before presenting it to the group. As Naruto was about to reach for it though, he pulled it back. I do have one condition. I want your word that I'll be protected from the Mad Titan when he comes. Naruto smiled before reaching into one of the compartments of his armor. Pulling his hand out, he revealed a three-pronged kunai. Deal. When he comes, just throw this on the ground. It'll let me know you need me, and with the space stone I'll be here. There was another use for that, but I never got around to actually mastering the technique required for it, he told him. The collector took the kunai, inspecting the script on it before nodding and placing it on his desk. With that being done, he presented the box to the blonde. Not wasting time, the blonde took the box before raising it up to eye level. He could feel the presence of the stone. It seemed like the box was a medium for the stone, as the cube was for the space stone. Holding the box with both hands, he began pushing large amounts of chakra into it. The box began to glow a brighter red, and soon the entire building began to rumble. Almost there, he thought to himself. This one was a little more difficult than the cube, but it would break all the same. Soon the place shook as the box finally had enough. A bright red light filled the museum, followed by a loud explosion that managed to crack a few windows of the display pieces. When everything settled, the box was no longer present. Instead, a single red stone rested on the palm of the blonde's hand. You've done well, Loki, complimented Hela as she admired the stone. Even she could feel the power this stone possessed. Unlike the space stone, this one had a stronger aura. Bringing the staff close to the stone, Naruto quickly slammed the stone just underneath the space stone. The staff began glowing red with some bits of blue as it integrated itself into the staff. The glowing lights quickly went down the staff, into the blonde's arms before going up near his head. Naruto gripped the staff harder, threw his head back, and inhaled deeply as the power began coursing through him. Seconds later it calmed down and he allowed himself to exhale. That was a rush, he commented. The collector was looking at the blonde wide-eyed before his attention went to the staff. Amazing, he whispered to himself. Not once have I seen someone wield more than one stone at a time. Truly amazing, he finished. Naruto stared at the stone. Alright, let's see if you're the real deal. He slammed the base of his staff to the ground, and immediately a thin red veil appeared seemingly out of thin air, moving across the entire room. All people present followed the red veil as it moved, and quickly noticed the scenery around them changing. They were no longer in the collector's museum. It looked like they were no longer on Knowhere. Where are we? Thor asked as he walked forward, feeling the buildings around them and touching the floor to make sure it was real. He patted a building wall a few times before taking another look around. They seemed to be in some sort of village by the looks of it. Off in the distance he could see a giant stone monument with several faces carved into it. Hela too noticed the monument, and immediately spotted a familiar face among them. This is your home, she pointed out. Yeah, he said softly before cutting off the stone's flow of power. The red veil appeared before them, moving backwards once again, revealing the collector's museum. Well, we got what we needed. A pleasure meeting you, collector. As agreed, if you need me you know how to get me. Let's go, he said as he activated the space stone and teleported everyone away. As they arrived back in Bifrost in Asgard, Naruto chuckled. What's so funny? Loki asked. I can only imagine how mad Thanos will be when he finds out I beat him to the stone, he said and continued laughing. Loki chuckled nervously before walking with Thor to the sword that activated the Bifrost. Our family just seems to get crazier, he commented. Our new brother-in-law seems to find amusement in upsetting one of the most powerful beings in the universe, he added, shaking his head. Thor laughs before taking a look over at the blonde who was talking with Hela. I agree, he's a strange one. But he's powerful, there's no denying that. We'll have to get used to it, brother, he said before getting everyone's attention. Alright, we need to head for New York. I'm not sure how much time has passed on Earth while we were in Knowhere, but we need to regroup with Banner and the Avengers, he ordered. I'll be staying behind this time, Hela said as she began walking towards the bridge back to the city. Since Certus and Thanos managed to wreck a large portion of Asgard, my powers have taken a hit. We must begin reconstruction at once, she clarified. I'll be staying as well, added the Valkyrie. Now that I'm here on Asgard again, there's some things I need to tend to, she said before heading out. Naruto nodded in agreement, as did the rest of the group. I'll close the Bifrost, Hela said. Maybe this time we'll make it through peacefully, Loki commented looking at his sister. Hela just smirked at him before giving Naruto a peck on the mouth and sending them on their way. Once gone, the goddess of death began her trek back to Asgard. Now where is Scourge? She asked out loud. The two brothers and their brother-in-law were content to take their trip through the Bifrost in peace and quiet. That was until Naruto realized this was the first time he was with the two while not fighting. He figured this would be a good time to connect with Hela's brothers. "So what are your hobbies?" he asked, trying to make conversation. Thor and Loki looked at each other, wondering where that came from before Loki realized what was going on. He chuckled, "It's fine, we really don't have to do this." The blonde was going to object, but they had reached their destination. When the light died, Naruto looked around and was going to ask where they were, but was beaten to the punch by Loki. "Why did we end up in the middle of a bunch of trees of all places? Didn't want to scare the public by appearing in the center of the city. Besides, the Avengers headquarters isn't far from here," Thor explained. "Can you use your magic to change our clothing, brother?" This was a cakewalk for Loki. His magic was beyond powerful. Asking if he could change their clothing was almost insulting, but he didn't comment on it and simply did as requested. His brother now had a tan jacket over a black sweater and black pants. Loki went with a more sophisticated approach and wore an all-black suit. After all, showing up in New York with his armor on might slightly upset the citizens. "So which one of you two is dressed normally here?" Naruto asked. He hadn't been to Midgard in so long he didn't know how they dressed. He looked to Loki and decided he'd take a page from his book. All that time he spent around Hela, and the color black really began to stick with him. He used the reality stone to change his clothing to resemble that of Loki's. The staff was also now hidden from sight to anyone but himself. If one were to look at him, they wouldn't see the staff. "Alright, Thor, lead the way," the blonde said. Thor nodded and began walking off. As they exited the woods, Naruto looked around and noticed there wasn't much around except one building. It seemed to be more of a compound, heavily guarded as there was people surrounding the area. Thor stopped walking and turned to his two colleagues. "Alright, you guys stay here. I'm going to go meet up with the team and let them know the two of you are here. Whatever you do, don't move," he stressed before walking off. Loki looked over at the blonde for a second before hatching up a plan. "Say, Naruto," he said, getting his attention. "Thor is always so uptight. I think he needs to loosen up, don't you think?" he asked. Naruto looked to where Thor had went and remembered every conversation he had with the god. Sure enough, he was mostly all business and fighting. "Yeah, I agree. How funny do you think it would be if we just appeared inside their headquarters before giving Thor could tell them why he brought us here?" Loki asked again, a glint appearing in his eyes. Naruto's eyes whitened. "You wanna prank Thor?" he asked happily. A nod was his answer. Inside the Avengers headquarters, Thor was walking to the main room where the Avengers usually stayed. Along the way, he was trying to think of exactly how he was going to explain why his brother and a superpowered being were here. Deciding he just figured it out as he went, he pushed open the doors and saw Banner, Tony, Rhodes, and a young man he'd never seen before. Kid couldn't have been older than 15. "Thor?" Banner said as he stood up from his seat. "Please tell me Thanos hasn't made another move." Thor laughed. "No, my friend, he hasn't. Not that I'm aware of. We, however, have made a move." "And what would that be, Point Break?" "What?" "No, hello," Tony said as he walked forward. Thor smiled happily as he saw his good friend for the first time in a while. "Stark, good to see you again, my friend," he told the man. He turned to Bruce and asked, "How long have you been here?" "Just a few days." "So what is this move you guys made?" Bruce asked. "Oh right, that. Well, we went to visit a man and managed to get another stone," he told them. "Okay, Banner kind of filled me in on the whole guy wants to rule the world scheme, but I'm still missing some information." "Who's we?" Tony asked. Thor was about to reply when he heard two voices he really wished he hadn't. "That would be us," two voices said from beside him. To their left, Naruto and Loki were sitting on some seats, both smiling like they hadn't just ignored what Thor had told them. "Thor, why is your brother here with some guy I've never met?" Tony asked, looking between Loki and Naruto. "Damn you both," Thor whispered under his breath as he looked at the two men. This was not going to go well. He just knew it. "I thought I told you two to wait outside until I came to get you," Thor said, clearly irritated. "True, brother. You did." Loki agreed, "but it started getting cold out there, and we figured it'd be a lot warmer in here." Naruto nodded, agreeing with the black-haired god. Despite not knowing Naruto, not a soul in that building was buying their story for a second. "Okay. Somebody's gonna have to explain what's going on here. Pronto. Come on," Stark said with a clap of his hands. Having one of the most dangerous people the Avengers have fought along with a complete unknown was not something he was comfortable with. Naruto noticed that after the man had clapped, his left hand was creeping closer to some sort of device on his chest. He briefly wondered what exactly that would do. He had to put his thoughts on hold as Thor began doing damage control. "Alright. I'm sure all of you know my brother Loki," said brother, flashed a charming smile and waved. He was not surprised to find that no one bothered to wave back. Thor then pointed to Naruto. "This is our brother-in-law Naruto," he introduced. It's Naruto," the blonde clarified. Thor looked at him with a somewhat confused expression. "Yes. That's what I said," he replied before continuing. "Anyways, these are the Avengers. We have Tony Stark, known to the world as Iron Man. Rhodes, known as War Machine." Then he trailed off as he looked at the young boy. Noticing all the eyes on him, the young man spoke. "Oh hey, I'm Peter Parker." Peter walked forward to be polite and shake their hands, but was stopped as a hand fell on his shoulder. Don't get too close. One of them has tried to conquer Earth before, and the two get along, so he can't be that much better," Tony says, still cautious. Seeing this, Naruto raised his hands up to try and appease the man. "I'm not here to conquer anything, alright?" he says before willing the reality stone to display his staff in his hand. Probably not the best idea since everyone not named Thor or Loki immediately got on guard. "If I wanted to take over the planet or kill everybody, I could have by now," he added before sliding his hand down slightly, allowing everyone to see two glowing stones. "Thor?" Tony called. "Are those what I think they are?" he asked, his eyes never leaving the glowing rocks. Thor laughed as he took in everyone's shocked reactions, along with the young man's confused one. "Yes, my friend. 2 infinity stones. The space stone as well as the reality stone." His voice then took a more serious tone. "The Mad Titan Thanos is on a quest to collect all 6 of them. He says he plans of collecting the stones and then using them to decimate half of all living life in the universe." Naruto finished. For the first time, Tony actually looks serious as opposed to apprehensive. "And you're trying to keep him from them?" he asked. "How do we know you can keep those safe? Don't take it the wrong way, but try and look at it from our angle. It doesn't sound smart to let someone we don't know go around collecting infinity stones," he explained. "Well, he has 2 stones already and so far hasn't killed anyone or taken over the Earth. If he has control over space and reality, I don't think it'd be relatively hard for him to do so. Not that I trust him or anything," Peter said, adding that last part after being given a look from Tony. "Well, it's either that or we let Thanos get them." Loki added, "Currently he's in possession of the Power Stone. If I were to wager, I'd say he's out looking for the rest." No one said anything as they all thought over what they just heard. Tony rubbed his chin as he thought things over. 2 people were hunting for the most powerful objects in the universe. There was only one way he could see this ending, and that was in an all-out war. He looked towards Rhodes and Peter before looking at his Asgardian friend. "Do you trust him?" he asked. Thor looked over at Naruto, still slightly miffed about being put on the spot earlier, but nods. "Yes. He says Thanos once already and forced him to retreat. Besides, if Thanos gets the stones, there's the possibility that he wipes out my sister in the process, and I know he won't stand for that." Tony walked over to a cabinet and took out a glass before filling it with some sort of alcoholic beverage. "Okay. So 2 stones are here. Thanos has the Power Stone. Vision has the Mind Stone. That leaves 2 stones unaccounted for," Tony explained as he took a drink. "Yeah. The Time Stone and the Soul Stone are still unknown," Naruto replied. "You said this Vision person has the Mind Stone. Where is he? If he could convince the man to hand it over, it would be a huge advantage." Tony shakes his head. "We don't know. He and Wanda haven't been seen in a while. Perhaps the others know where Vision is," Thor offered. Bruce looked uncomfortable as he stepped forward. "Actually, about that. The Avengers have disbanded," he told him. Bruce went on to reiterate the events that happened while the 2 were off-planet. Everything from the Sokovia Accords to the disbanding of the Avengers when Tony and Captain America along with Bucky went at it. In the end, nobody won. The Avengers disbanded and one of my friends was critically injured," he said, motioning to Rhodes. The mood was solemn as those who were there were forced to remember the battle. Loki, however, leaned his head over towards Naruto. "Sounds to me like Captain America won," he said quietly. Naruto had to stifle down a laugh as he knew now wasn't the time to let Loki make him laugh. He coughed quietly to get himself under control before speaking. "Alright, so there's 3 stones missing at the moment. I have a sneaking suspicion that Thanos may know where the Soul Stone is, so he's most likely going there," Naruto told them. "Do you have any way of getting in touch with the rest of the Avengers?" he asked Tony. Tony looked uncomfortable and looked away, not answering. "Tony, do you have a way to contact Steve and the others?" Bruce asked once more. Tony reached into his pocket and pulled out a phone before muttering, "Yeah. You have to call them, Tony. We need help," he continued. Seeing Tony not budge on the matter, he got a bit angry. "Tony, every living thing in this universe is at stake. Put your pride aside and make the call. It's not that simple. Even if we did manage to get them to help us, the government will still recognize them as criminals. They'd be arrested on sight," Tony replied as he looked at the phone. "Damn it, Tony," Bruce muttered. "These Accords really screwed it up for them." As if reading his mind, Naruto spoke up. "Not gonna lie, Stark, these Accords you were all for were a stupid idea. Is there any way to overturn it?" he asked. "No. The Accords were ratified by over 100 countries. It could take years to get them to agree to terminate them," Rhodes informed them. Naruto was going to speak but stopped as he felt something. He turned his head to the right, looking out the window before he felt a light pull again. "What's wrong?" Thor asked. "I'll be right back," Naruto muttered before tapping his staff on the floor and disappeared into the blue portal. Everyone looked to where Naruto once stood, wondering just where he went. "By any chance, is there anything to eat around here?" Loki asked. Everyone glanced at him but said nothing. The blonde reappeared in the middle of the city. The strange thing was that it was nighttime. He looked around and noticed pieces of some of the nearby buildings on the ground. Clearly a battle had taken place here recently. As he was looking around, he heard an explosion a few blocks away. Once again he disappeared into the portal and reappeared where he heard the explosion from. He appeared inside a building on the top floor and watched as a battle took place below him. He noticed two alien-like figures that looked similar to the ones that had come with Thanos during their last encounter. The bigger figure had a scepter in his hand and was trying to either kill or capture a red humanoid figure. That's when he saw it. A yellow stone situated at the center of the man's forehead. So that's vision, he said to himself. He was expecting a man to be using the stone, not a man being kept alive by the stone. Fighting alongside him was a woman who seemed to have some sort of telekinetic powers. A blonde martial artist woman and finally a bearded man with a dark blue suit with a star on his chest. Currently the man was holding back a spear from taking his head off, while the others were fighting the woman. Looks like it was time to step in. The moment his feet touched the ground, everyone stopped what they were doing to see who had shown up. Are you two with Thanos? Naruto asked. The woman looked at him before looking at his staff, noticing the two stones. She didn't answer and simply pressed a button on her forearm, and her companion were engulfed in a blue light before they were taken away. Naruto looked at the remaining people before walking forward. As expected, most of them tensed up, all except the one with the star. He stood still, didn't look fazed, but was clearly ready for anything. Naruto could respect that. Who are you? Asked the telekinetic girl as his hands glowed red. He noticed that a red hue had begun to appear around him as he was lifted into the air. Everyone watched in confusion as the blonde seemed to turn into red particles of light before he disappeared. Now no need for all of that. They heard from behind them. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I'm a friend of Thor's. He told them as he realized if they were with vision, they must be the other members of the Avengers. He would have said Loki, but chances are he wasn't too popular with them either. Finally one of them stepped forth. I'm Steve Rogers. You said you're a friend of Thor? He asked. Friend, brother-in-law, take your pick. Just to make sure I'm talking to the right person, you're Captain America, right? Of the Avengers. Naruto asked to make sure. You have me at a disadvantage. You seem to know who I am, but you're unfamiliar to me. Cap replied. I actually just learned about you a couple minutes ago. I was talking with Tony Stark and Bruce about past events when I felt a spike of energy, which I'm now sure was the Infinity Stone inside your head. He said, pointing at Vision at the end. Which I'm assuming they wanted to take. Captain America was going to ask how he was sure it was the stone, but stopped as he finally noticed the stones. From the angle where he was, he hadn't seen them when he forced the two aliens to retreat. They were indeed here for the Mid-Stone. What are your intentions? Vision asked. Originally I was going to ask the wielder of the stone to hand it over, but it looks like that stone is what's keeping you alive. He answered. The blonde woman stepped forward, a frown on her face. Okay, hold on. You said you were with Thor, where is he? She asked. He's back at the Avengers headquarters. We need your help. He told them, though he was now looking at Cap as he seemed to be the leader. Help with what exactly? Cap replied. It's a pretty long story, how about we talk about this elsewhere? He could see the hesitance in their eyes, and he couldn't blame them. He was a complete stranger who suddenly came to their aid and had two Infinity Stones in his possession, one of which he was familiar with. Alright, how about I go get Thor if it'll make you guys a bit more at ease? He asked. Without giving them a chance to reply, the blonde summoned a portal behind him and disappeared. He reappeared back at Avengers HQ, and quickly scanned the room for the Asgardian. Thor, I need you to come with me for a while. Your friends aren't exactly trusting me right now. He told the man. Thor nodded and downed his beer he had been drinking before standing up. Hold it. Tony said. If Thor is going, so is Loki. I don't know if he's turned over a new leaf or whatever, but I'm not risking him staying here. The god of mischief just smiled, glad he could still get Iron Man on edge. Alright, fine. It'll make it a little more difficult, but I can manage. Let's go. With that, the three men disappeared from the room. Back with Captain and his team, they all began to wonder what was going on. The blonde had told them that they needed the help of the Avengers, but hadn't been specific. His thoughts were cut off as the blonde returned again, this time with two familiar faces in tow. One of which they were not so happy to see. Immediately they were on guard as Loki stepped forward with Thor. Captain. Thor greeted with a smile. It's good to see you again. Worry not about Loki, he will cause you no trouble. They looked skeptical but trust his judgment. Thor, it's good to see you. Cap replied before pulling the Asgardian in for a hug. An action that was mimicked by everyone at the scene. I'm sure you have some questions. All of which I'll be more than happy to answer. A warning, it's not a good situation we found ourselves in. I wanted you to come to the Avengers headquarters to discuss the recent events, but I've been told you're not allowed. He said with a frown. They may not be allowed at the HQ, but I know somewhere we can talk. Naruto said as he opened a portal and stepped aside, motioning them in with his hand. Loki was the first to enter, not even looking back. The rest followed after being reassured that he could be trusted. Captain America looked around in both wonder and confusion at the semi-ruined city the blonde man had taken them to. All around he could see people working together to rebuild damaged buildings and streets. He looked up at some of the ones that were intact and was in awe at how much gold lined the city. "Welcome friends, to Asgard," Thor announced, or what's left of it at least. "Come." It was about a minute walk before they entered a giant palace, gold lining almost every part of it. Though the deeper they got into it, the more rubble they found. Finally they reached what Cap would guess to be the throne room. He had some knowledge on Norse mythology, and the person sitting on the throne did not look like Odin. And said he saw a woman in a black and green skin-tight suit sitting cross-legged looking over a book. He quickly hurried his pace to walk alongside Thor and whispered, "Isn't Odin supposed to be sitting there? Father passed away not too long ago." The man replied solemnly, "I'm sorry for your loss." He too knew what it was like to lose people important to him. "But shouldn't the throne go to you as his heir?" He followed up. "Yes, but my sister and I came to an agreement, and it was decided she would be the new ruler of Asgard," he told her. Steve turned his attention back to the woman and remembered what the blonde had told him. He had introduced himself as both Thor's friend and brother-in-law. He hadn't known Thor had a sister. "We're back," Naruto announced as he walked up the stairs to the throne to greet his wife. She looks up from her book and greets him with a kiss before looking back at them with a seemingly uninterested look. "So you are?" She didn't ask, but he knew her well enough to know she was curious about the others. He stood to her right. "These are Thor's allies from Midgard," he said. Steve, being the ever-polite one, walked forward and nodded. "Your Highness," he greeted. The others followed suit but didn't speak. Hela raised an eyebrow and smirked at the display. Naruto had to hold back a groan as he knew this would do wonders for her ego. "I like this one," she said, looking at Steve. "Has Thor, my husband, told you what's going on?" she asked him, seeing him as the leader of the group. "Not yet," Cap replied. "We were brought here to get some answers." "Darling," she tells Naruto. Nodding, he begins to fill them in the same way he did with Stark and the others. It took well over half an hour to relay everything to them, stopping occasionally to answer questions from the group. "That's why they came for the stone," Vision commented. "How many are left?" Steve asked, referring to the stones. "2. The Time Stone as well as the Soul Stone," Thor answered. "We've come to the conclusion that Thanos must have an idea of where the Soul Stone is located and is heading to retrieve it as we speak." "This is bad," Natasha said, finally contributing to the conversation. "From what you've told us, it doesn't sound like he'll just sit back and allow you to keep the stones out of his reach. He'll target you again. This time he'll be stronger if he has another stone," she added. "He has an army." Loki told them, "When I invaded Earth, Thanos was the one who gave me the Chitauri. He has thousands under his command. Soon he'll call them to help him retrieve the stones. We'll be greatly outnumbered. Even with the Avengers as well as yourselves, we can't take on an entire army, along with a man wielding infinity stones," Vision commented. "We'll need a lot more help." Steve, having been quiet, nods to himself. "I think I know where we can get it," he said before looking at Naruto. "Do you know where Wakanda is?" Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below, and turn on the bell notification. And also check out other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.